we're being recorded. Thank you. As to, you know, other recommendations that he may have. But at this point in time, based on the feedback I've received, it would be my recommendation for the commissioners to accept this bid. Jonathan?
Oop, Jonathan, can you unmute? We can't.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with my cursor. Is that working?
That is. It's that we can hear you now.
Okay, and now you can sort of see, oops. There, can you still hear me?
We can hear you, but not see you.
Okay, let me try again. There we go.
Here we go.
Cool. So to me, the advantage of working with the National Center for State Courts is we've been actively working with them for the last year and a half. They've kind of championed nationally having all jurisdictions across the country engage in SIM mapping. They've put on, in fact, the training with PRA that I was trained in SIMS mapping with last summer in Arizona. The thing that to me is potentially especially attractive is, as I said, they were really familiar with Lake County. They've identified us as a priority rural county to work with. Some of the things they've reached out is to include us on COVID case management training that we just completed last Friday with them. That was a national cohort of courts from all over the country. They've also reached out to us to help collaborate in doing some other consulting work, seeking additional funding from the State Justice Initiative. And so the thing that to me is somewhat appealing is our relationship with them isn't just a one-stop, come in, come out, do this process, but also they've been already very engaged with us in helping us identify and secure funding so we can actually implement whatever recommendations come out of that. So I'm not sure what questions you might have for me. I can give more information about them, our relationship with them, what my experience and what they've actually delivered in terms of previous trainings, but I'm happy to help however I can.
I don't think that I have any further questions at this point. Commissioner Mudge or Commissioner Glenn, do you have any questions at this point?
I don't have anything else. No, I think it looks pretty straightforward, and happy to learn and hear more about how we already have that extensive relationship with them. And I'm glad that they have kind of made it explicit that they have the ability and interest to engage with us for implementation, because that's a key piece after, you know, these assessments are done to move forward, of course. So I'm really eager to get something like this started.
Commissioner Glenn, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
All right. So with that, I feel like we're ready to make a motion. So I will entertain a motion at this point.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I move to accept the proposal by the National Center for State Courts for our Lake County SIMS mapping process in the amount not to exceed $90,907. Oh my gosh. I hope you didn't hear that from my child in the background.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good.
I will second that motion. Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion?
I do not.
Commissioner Mudge, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay. So seeing no further discussion from my fellow board members, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Wonderful. All right, so we will get that started. Chris, I would assume that you will assist us with getting the contracting piece in place with them.
Yes.
Okay, did you want me to reach out to them to start that contracting conversation, or you?
I'll follow up with them directly. Just for a point of clarification, I expect it's appropriate for me to share with them. We appreciate the offer of the optional technical assistance that is included in the bid for which would cost an additional $8,000. But I think based on Judge Seamus's comments, perhaps to clarify that that's something we will want to revisit once we get into the process, or perhaps the initial process is completed, in order to have those additional implementation services approved. And I would expect that, based on what Judge Seamus said about potentially be able to identify other resources to help pay for that. Did I understand that correctly, Judge?
That's correct. We had applied about a month ago for specific SJI COVID funding. They didn't think that our SIMS planning was directly aligned with what they wanted. They have another grant cycle with an application due on the 31st of October. We're going to work with the National Center for State Courts to secure that funding. We met with them and they very much wanted us to apply. So that's hopeful, no guarantee, but my hope is we'll have other resources to invest.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan, for joining us today. I sure appreciate you being on the call and your help with this.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your support too. Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you, Judge.
All right. So the next thing on our list is the contract approval for HCM. HCM is our architectural and design firm and engineering firm working on Fire Station 2 for us. We've been engaged with them since July and now have the final contracting document back from them. Chris, do you have anything to add from the review of the contract document?
Yes, what I will share is that the contract was vetted. There were a number of revisions that I requested in order to make the contract a little bit more balanced for the county, and they did accept our changes. So the contract that's been presented at this point that HCM has signed off on does reflect those changes, and it's my recommendation that the commissioners accept it.
Thanks, Chris. Commissioner Mudge or Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further discussion or questions or comments at this point?
I don't. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's always
Commissioner
nice when it comes back easy like that, Chris. Huh.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah.
Commissioner Glenn, do you have any further questions or comments on this?
I do not.
All right. So with that, I will make a motion that we accept the contract document for HCM for Station 2.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
All right, and none for me. So all those in favor? Aye.
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 Wonderful, thank you. Chris, I will get that signed and over to Patty to be recorded. And I think that's all we need. All right, the last thing on our list today is the contract amendment for Anderson Hollis for the Phase 2 due diligence
Yes.
on the potential sites. Chris, did you want to?
Yeah, yes, I'll introduce that and then
Yep.
also, but before we go, I just wanted to clarify, if once the contract is recorded, would you please ask Patty's office to scan and email a copy to me so I can provide that, have it for our file, but also to provide it back to the vendor.
HCM. Okay, absolutely. I'll make sure I'll coordinate that with Patty and her recording clerk.
Okay. In terms of for the last item on the agenda today, it's the amendment to the Anderson Hollis contract, which you may recall Anderson Hollis is the architectural and design engineering type firm that is heading up the Justice Center work. And the commissioners previously approved moving into phase 2 due diligence on the 2 sites that are under consideration, that being the rail yard site and the Union Pacific site south of the city. And so what you have in front of you are, as I said, the proposed amendments. And with that amendment is a revised scope of services that identifies, what the additional work will entail and the cost for those. In reviewing, this, this is another situation, is that I did ask Katie, poor thing, she's probably wondering if I think she is actually on leave as much as I'm pinging her these days, but asked her to take a look at it just because she has worked so closely with Anderson Hollis and the other parties on getting all this due diligence stuff teed up, just to make sure that I didn't miss or overlook anything. And she replied back that it absolutely did seem to be within the scope that was expected and presented to the commissioners for the phase 2, and that their proposed deadline of November 30th seems to be appropriate, especially given now that we're almost at October 1st. The one thing I was going to proffer too, that Katie sent an initial estimate of the due diligence cost back in May in a spreadsheet, what we were initially looking at and estimating what these costs would be. Some of the costs are more than what were originally estimated, and most of that is based on the fact that it is for 2 sites versus 1. And then there have also been a few upticks in the cost, especially with the survey cost. And I think that's a function of our capital system where, supply and demand often affects the price for certain services. And that definitely is the case in this instance, where I believe that the initial bid for the surveys was, about, I'm looking at, for the Harrison work, so the UP site was originally estimated at $15,500, and now it looks like it's going to cost another $2,000 above that for $17,500. The rail yard survey was estimated at $7,500, and it looks like it will be $10,000. But note on that one, we're not recommending that we proceed with the rail yard survey at this time, just because I think there's existing information that's sufficient for this part of the due diligence.
I would imagine that to be the case.
Yeah, so I don't think you need to be concerned with that cost increase. The other cost increase had to do with the geotech work. We originally thought that was going to run about $15,000, and it's substantially more, but that's based on the original estimate only included drilling for environmental data, and unfortunately there's additional data that's needed that the architect Anderson Hollis needs to determine where on these sites the facility may actually be able to be constructed. So there's additional drilling, and I expect samples that would be needed for that. So overall, it looks like there's a difference of $4,300 from what was originally estimated back in May. And but I would think overall, in the big scheme of stuff, that is not a material enough difference to justify not proceeding with the due diligence. So I know I just threw a lot of information out at you, but I'd like to give Brandon Gossard and Nan Anderson of Anderson Hollis are on the meeting with us, and I would like to give them the opportunity to provide any additional clarifications that they may want, or to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Brandon, do you want to speak, or do you want me to start?
Well, I'd be happy to kind of just follow up with what Chris mentioned. Is my audio coming through?
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So yeah, as Chris mentioned, there were a few areas that the scope increased a little bit. The primary reason that the survey ended up getting more expensive is in the first phase of due diligence, it became apparent that there would be necessary roadway improvements for rights of way that are beyond the perimeter of the property. And so this surveying would be to put us in a position to be able to complete that work. So the boundary actually increased slightly. And then the primary issue with the geotechnical report was originally we were looking at 3 borings. And in order to pivot to a drilling team that had a lot of experience with environmental gathering and to go from 3 to 6, it did also cause that increase. So those were kind of the specific general items, but that would include just the geotechnical scope for the 2 sites and then the surveying scope for just the 1.
Okay. I don't think I have any further questions. Nan, did you have anything to add to that?
No. No,
So
he covered it.
to be clear, we don't need to, in our motion, we don't need to make a specific omission or request to omit that survey for the rail yard? Or should we try to do that?
Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I know. Gosh, pain of my existence. I keep forgetting that. That's what I was just scrolling through y'all's revised scope of services to see if that was
we extracted it.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under the additional services. The base bid is the base fee is what we've kind of outlined without the rail yards. There were a few other things that might come up, but we put all those as additional services. So if that is decided in the future, you'll have that on hand to be able to pick them up if so desired.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Brandon.
So now the revised scope of services, the proposed fee for that, based on the documents provided by Anderson Hollis, is, I believe, the $56,070. Is that correct? Because that includes your reimbursables and such like that, correct?
That is correct.
So right now what they're asking for approval for the additional services is the $56,070. And I believe that most of these expenditures will take us to the maximum amount available in the budgets for all 3 of the grants, except for those earmarked, I guess they're targeted for the property acquisitions once a site is identified. And so it looks like right now, any additional cost, if you were to decide to go with the other optional services that are listed, those would be funded totally by the county. But it looks like that for now, it looks like out of the $56,070, there are $23,625 available in grant funding, which would make the county's share of the funding $32,445.
Okay. Commissioner Glenn, Commissioner Mudge, do you have questions at this point?
I think, I'm sorry to harp on this, but I was looking at the scope that included that survey at 4,800, and so does that decrease that 56 lump sum? I'm sorry.
This is Brandon. If you look at the fee proposal, I believe it's on page 3. You'll be able to see the different scope line items. And in the additional services under, at the very bottom, you'll see that
Gotcha.
2.2 is the rail yard survey. And this also moves the licensing and permitting costs into the design team fee. So the county wouldn't be the licensee for the Union Pacific right of entry agreement. that would all be held by the geotech. So that's the 5,600 that you see right above the additional
Above
services.
it. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. Appreciate that. All right.
Glenn, do you have any questions or comments at this point?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the scope of work as revised by Anderson Hollis for additional services to develop the information available for the consideration of the Lake County Justice Center.
Is there any further discussion, Commissioner Glenn?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Mudge?
No, thank you.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thank you very much, Nan and Brandon, for joining us today. We appreciate it and appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that we would like to discuss or chat about before we adjourn this afternoon?
I don't think, just agenda items maybe for Monday that we have currently.
Yes, I'm trying to compile that list now.
Okay.
So if you want to send me an email with what you have, I have the Newmont Mining, a agenda item from Patty and Carol Bellhouse. I think.
Which is, what's that item?
Let me pull it up here.
Okay. The declaration revision.
Emergency management declaration.
Yep.
Tennis packet from Carol Bellhouse.
What packet?
Hennis packet.
What is
For
this?
consideration. Let me see if I can pull it up through my email here.
Patty's online. Patty, do you have?
Yeah, let me try to. Patty, I think you'll have to push *6 to unmute.
That's what I just did.
Okay.
We can hear you now.
Okay. Todd it's a right-of-way easement that he's asking for. She put everything together and I sent you packets about all of it.
Did it go to land use first?
She's been working with Paul because
Okay.
she has already been working with Paul.
Okay. Let's reach out to Paul and learn more and see if that's.
Carol sent a lot of documentation too for you to explain all of this. It was something that had been there before. It's just the county owns some of the property and he needs it's an old road that was abandoned and he wants to be able to use it.
Sarah, Patty forwarded this to us on September 4th and I'll resend it to you both.
I just found it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Commissioner Marcella, I'm hopeful that maybe we can also add to the agenda on Monday the approval of the contract with LM Kirsten for the fire station construction. In what I hope will be final revisions with their attorney. So I'm hopeful that we will have that ready for consideration by Monday. But I'll leave that to you. I just wanted to float that balloon that might be a possibility if it's ready by then.
All right.
we also have a Board of Adjustment appointment that was requested by Ann.
Yep.
And I have
go ahead, Patty.
They are adding another optional premise due to the COVID.
Okay.
For another, they took another one of their buildings and they want to be able to serve alcohol in it as an optional premise.
at Ski Cooper, correct?
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Glenn, do you have anything else to put on there?
I do not.
All right. Patty, I'll work on getting this finalized with you and get our planner finalized for next week, and then I'll get it over to you because I think we've got some budget meetings to schedule next week that Crystal sent us. Some chunks of time blocked out, so I'll be sure to send that to you with those updated planners.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have anything else?
Don't, and I probably don't have another agenda item either. So if you don't hear from me, I don't have anything.
Cool. Sounds good. Commissioner Glenn, are you good?
I'm good.
All right. All right, well, with that, then we will adjourn today at 12:32 p.m. and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks.